Hey everybody, welcome to The List. I'm your host, Jesse Combs.
And I'm Patrick McIntyre, and we've got a great show for you today.
We are going to be driving on one of the most isolated and treacherous roads in North America. And as you can see, it's the dead of winter, which complicates things even more.
We're going to be pushing our vehicle to its environmental limits as we drive north into the Arctic Circle, where temperatures of 35 below are common this time of year.
So come along as we attempt to check Drive to the Arctic Circle off our list. I've had a love affair with cars my whole life. I build them in my shop, and I race them both on and off-road.
I've spent years on the auto show circuit talking about cars, but now it's time to get behind the wheel and find the next adventure.
Together, we're setting out to tackle all things that every car enthusiast should do.
This is The List.
One of the many list items that you guys suggested we do is drive the Alaskan Highway. Well, Mercedes gave us a call to see if we wanted to test out the cold weather capabilities of their Sprinter vans.
And when we talk about cold weather, we're talking in the negatives. Right now it's -2, but we're on our way to Fairbanks, where it's reported to be -42. Our journey begins in Anchorage, Alaska. Our first leg is a 360-mile drive north on the Elliott and Dalton Highways through Denali National Park past Mount McKinley, the tallest mountain in North America. We'll spend the night in Fairbanks before embarking on the final leg of our journey, which is another 260-mile drive north beyond the Arctic Circle to Coldfoot Camp, the northernmost truck stop in the world. Our goal on this expedition is threefold: to reach the Arctic Circle, experience the Aurora Borealis, and above all, survive the harsh Arctic conditions.
This has been on the list since day one, since we started this whole process. This was probably in the first 10 items that we had, because it's just such an incredible journey. It's one of the loneliest roads in America. It's one of the most evocative routes. You've got the gold rush, you've got the oil pipeline. I mean, that's petrol running right through your veins. It's just a really great drive.
We'll be traveling in a caravan of about 7 Sprinter vans, with a couple of support vehicles that are equipped with all of the essentials for survival in the Arctic. It's a good idea to bring along a satellite phone, a shovel, a tow strap, extra food and water, additional fluids like oil, antifreeze, and anticoagulant, since there aren't any services for hours in either direction. Unless you're being paid to drive this road, you're completely out of your mind.
A lot of you guys are probably wondering why we chose a Sprinter van for our Arctic Circle journey. Well, yes, Mercedes did invite us, but there's a lot of really cool things that we're finding out about this van.
Yeah, one of which is the height. Makes a huge difference. The ability to stand up and stretch out on a long car ride and give us the ability to carry all of our crew and our stuff. Very nice.
A lot of the vehicles that are driving on this highway are 18-wheelers, transporters, and are diesel fuel operated. So for us to be driving a vehicle that requires diesel fuel makes it a little bit more convenient for us to find fuel.
Not to mention these vehicles are designed for this. I mean, Mercedes does their cold weather testing in northern Sweden, which has a very similar climate. So something like this with just a simple set of snow tires and a really incredible electronic stability system gives us the ability to handle all kinds of weather, no matter what the terrain.
I feel comfortable in it.
Yeah, I'd say yes, it is a big van, and when the wind blows, I'm reminded of that, but up until that point...
It drives like a car?
Yeah. Mount McKinley. It's the towering centerpiece of Denali National Park, which itself is about the size of Massachusetts. It's difficult to fathom the scale of this awesome mountain. Like the frigid temperatures, the scale is outside the realm of anything we've experienced thus far. On the top of the mountain, you can see all the snow drifts just blowing. The wind must be intense up there. It's cold enough down here, and that's probably another 19,730 feet above us. Don't quote me on that. Driving next to all these mountains makes me feel like an ant. I feel like an ant.
In the grand scheme of things, we are very, very small compared to everything that is surrounding us right now. It's very desolate out here, and you don't see any traffic at all, really. And when you do, they're really big trucks. It gets pretty hairy when the roads are narrow and icy, and you're passing these big trucks with huge equipment on it. Thank God we have skills. See, here's one right now. We've been driving for 6 hours. We're starting to lose light.
Yep, the terrain is changing, wind is picking up.
We're down to 16 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. Diesel engines typically run at a lower RPM than those powered by gasoline. Therefore, they don't generate as much heat. Keeping the windows from frosting up proved to be a challenge at times, but gearing down for higher RPMs gave the heater core a fighting chance of keeping up with the frigid temperatures outside.
Alaska is the largest state in the Union by area, but the smallest state by population. To put Alaska's massive area into perspective, it has about 1/5 of the landmass as the entire lower 48 states.
As the light faded on day 1 of our expedition, we began to get an overwhelming sense of isolation. Later that evening on the north side of the Alaska Range, we got our first taste of true Alaskan cold.
Okay, the gauge says -36 degrees. It is cold.
It's very, very, very cold. We have to stop and get gas, which means we have to get out of the car.
Which means you gotta put this hood on, because if you don't, your skin's gonna freeze. Good God! What? This is not right, man. I have all these layers on, I have gloves, I have a hat, I have fancy boots, everything, but you can feel this like chill to your inner core. And the skin on my face, dry, and it feels like my lips are cracking right now because they're so cold. This is awful. Pretty, but awful. This is an anti-gel and performance improver, and also a diesel fuel supplement. Basically, you put these in before you fill up the tank, so that way that your diesel fuel doesn't freeze inside your vehicle. That's how cold it is here, is that the inside, the things that explode to make the vehicle work might not explode because it's so cold. All right, we did it. End of day 1.
We made it to Fairbanks, which is only halfway to our final destination in Coldfoot, Alaska, just on the inside of the Arctic Circle.
So now it's time to fill up our bellies, get a little rest, and warm up.
We should probably unload our gear first.
Oh, all right.
I know.
Good morning. This is morning. No light whatsoever. One of the reasons that we take the Sprinter van with us is because it has a timer inside to heat up the engine's oils and liquids and everything to get the vehicle going. So we set the timer last night. It went off at 7 this morning. Now it's my job to start the vehicle right now before everything else freezes back up. Here we go. All right, looking good. Oh, it's everything in the car trying to just turn over in this cold. Jeez. Okay, now you do the fun part. You start the car, you get the hell back inside. So we're being held up by the rest of the caravan because somebody didn't turn on their heater last night. They didn't set the alarm, so it didn't warm up properly this morning, which means then we have to wait an extra 45 minutes. Preparation, man, it's key. When I got a call that said we were going to the Arctic Circle, the first thing I thought of was a sled dog team. I didn't think it's possible to actually get to the Arctic Circle without a special team. I didn't realize what it was until I informed myself. It is an entire circle that encompasses 8 different countries, and you can get there by car. It's pretty cool. Being out in cold weather like this makes you realize that the insignificance of humans on this earth is, I know that sounds kind of morbid, but that's true. Like, nature will always win. I mean, this has the ability to completely shut down my body. Your mortality is pretty clear. It's real, man. You think, why the hell would anybody come up here? Because they might die. But it's gorgeous up here. It's worth seeing. The Dalton Highway, otherwise known as Hall Road, was built in the 1970s to service the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. It wasn't completely open to the public until 1994. It's 425 miles long and mostly gravel. It's the only road in the United States that runs all the way up to the Arctic Ocean. It has the longest stretch of highway in America without any services. And many rental car companies don't allow you to drive their cars on it due to the almost certain amount of damage that can occur. It's a road we just had to drive. With rocks kicking up from other vehicles, it doesn't take long for the paint to chip and windshields and headlights to crack. In the middle of winter, a broken windshield could be a deadly proposition.
Here comes the big truck, and the visibility is pretty bad as he goes by, so a
I don't know where I'm going. It's like Baja, except instead of dust, it's snow.
It seems that everything is extreme in Alaska. It's what we've been told anyway. But experiencing it for ourselves drives that point home all too clearly.
We are backtracking right now because one of the vans in our whole group got hit by, I'm trying to still figure it out.
A vehicle that was not traveling with us was hit by another truck, which pushed that vehicle into one of ours in the convoy. So we weren't directly related in the accident, but unfortunately, an accident did happen. So we're gonna go check out the situation. There is a lot of flashing lights up here.
Crossing this small bridge, you can see there's just a very gradual right-hand turn. Anyway, the truck was coming towards us in the left-hand lane. There was a fellow that was dead stop. Truck came across the bridge, hit his brakes, and the rear trailer on the train, jackknife, came right across the road, smoked this guy, and then pushed him 10 feet back, smashed into us, and kept pushing us for a bit until we all came to a stop.
So all three things were being pushed back at the same time.
Yep.
Is it a surprise that it happened here closer to Fairbanks as opposed to the middle of nowhere?
Well, there's a couple of interesting things. I mean, the one is that today it's a lot warmer than yesterday. I mean, it's still 20 below, but it's not 40 below. And I've noticed just this morning when I've been out on the road here that it's a lot slipperier. At 40 below, I found we were getting a lot more stick, even though we're running on ice. So today, you can kind of go skating over here a lot more. So actually, it's more treacherous today than it was yesterday. Nobody got hurt. That's the key thing. Everybody walked away from this. We just got a lot of mangled metal, but nobody really got hurt.
Luckily, the Sprinter van came out of the incident relatively unscathed. The damage was assessed, and it was determined that it was safe to continue on the Arctic journey.
Shooting a show up here with all the equipment has certainly presented some unique challenges. You jump out of the vehicle, you're all bundled up, you're ready to go, you know what you're gonna say, and then all of a sudden, everything stops working.
You ready, Graham?
Check. I don't know what's going on.
Not getting it.
Batteries. Frozen solid again. Everything's frozen. I don't recommend this to anybody. You know, I was up for the adventure before this, but it just wreaks havoc on everything. Everything's just dying immediately. There we go.
All right, here we go.
They talk about some of the stages of hypothermia, one of which is just kind of slowing down your brain to the point where you can't function. So it's not only your fingers and your toes that start to freeze, but your brain freezes, which means your mouth freezes, which means you can't talk and you can't think properly.
Hundreds and hundreds of miles of pipeline that was built years back in 1967.
The specifics.
It pushes 500 million barrels through this pipeline a day.
That's an estimate. It can hold up
What?
500 million barrels. No, 500,000 barrels just this year alone.
That's
A day.
a day.
Your nose is getting real white, real quick.
I know, I need to go in.
You good on that?
Yeah, Jesse's nose was just turning white. Is she all right?
It's coming.
How you feeling, Jesse?
I think my nose is literally gonna fall off. This is the Trans-Alaskan Pipeline. It was built in the mid-70s to be able to provide oil to the United States during their oil crisis.
And along with the construction of the pipeline came the road that is actually going to allow us to drive all the way up to the Arctic Circle.
This thing is 48 inches wide and pumps 500,000 barrels of oil a day.
And we're going to follow it all the way up to Coldfoot.
After 2 days of driving and some of the most epic scenery we have ever seen in person, we began to wonder how far off our destination actually was. But 66.33 degrees north was actually within our grasp. Here we are, guys, the threshold of our journey. We made it to the Arctic Circle. This sign proves it, and we are here.
Inside this circle are 8 different countries, 2 million people, and 50 different languages. Of those people, we haven't seen any of them yet.
Nope, and we're still traveling north. It's still freezing cold outside, so we need to get back in the van and keep going. Woohoo! We made it!
I know, we did it.
We are in the Arctic Circle and we made it to Coldfoot, Alaska.
This is it. We don't have PhDs, we're not explorers, but we are currently in the Arctic Circle and we are going to spend the night in probably one of the coldest places I've ever been to. Coldfoot was first settled by prospectors after gold was discovered nearby in 1899. Today, it has a population of about 10 people. It's more of a truck stop or base camp for travelers along the Dalton Highway, who are typically trucking goods to and from the oil fields in Prudhoe Bay. Coldfoot set a North American record with an all-time low temperature of minus 82 degrees Fahrenheit.
I'm number 37.
Number 40. All right, look at that. Okay.
It's warm in here.
Looking good. A little sparse, but you know, the bare essentials.
Huge beds, custom walls.
Walls are a little thin.
Yep. Running water. We're set.
Quaint, but it works. For a town that has 10 people, this is actually pretty nice. This is really nice.
All right, so we are about 100 yards off of the base camp here at Coldfoot, and we're with Jason, and all these sled dogs. Why? Why do you have all these sled dogs? I mean, why not just have a car? What's the purpose of these guys out here?
Well, one of the things is that dogs are they're really reliable form of transportation. You know, cars, if you don't have them plugged in all the time in these temperatures, they won't start, their fluids freeze, whereas dogs, they can stay active in pretty much any temperatures. They're very thick-coated, and they've been out in 60 below, and they do just fine in it. The main reason I have them is I'm here year-round, and so from about late November to actually just a couple of days ago, we actually don't have, the sun doesn't come up over the mountains here. And you can really kind of go stir crazy if you're not doing something that gets you out and gets you active. And having these dogs, it keeps you sane in a place like this. So.
Jason, we're here to see the Aurora Borealis. Have you seen them lately, or do we have a good chance of seeing them?
We do, yeah. It looks like it's mainly clear tonight. And we actually saw it just a couple of days ago. We went on a tour and saw it. But this is actually one of the best spots in the entire world for aurora viewing. We're right under the Aurora Oval. So instead of looking at the northern lights to the north, you're actually looking at them almost right overhead here. About 80% of nights that's clear, you see something.
Is that why you live here?
It's amazing. Yeah, and it never gets old.
After dinner, we drove even further north, away from the lights of Coldfoot, to a small settlement called Wiseman with the hope of seeing the northern lights, Aurora Borealis. We hunkered down in a small cabin waiting for the aurora activity, and just as we were about to give up for the night, we caught a glimpse of the bright green natural wonder. The northern lights are at their brightest during heavy sunspot activity when protons and electrons from the sun are blown toward the Earth on the solar wind. When those particles collide with one another as they enter the Earth's atmosphere, they glow bright. It's the equivalent of nature's neon lights. Many cultural groups from around the world have legends about the lights, and seeing them firsthand is truly a mystical experience.
We got everything we wanted and more. We had an epic drive up the Dalton Highway, we reached the Arctic Circle, and we witnessed the Northern Lights. After a quick night's rest in Coldfoot, it was time to head back south on our long journey home, satisfied that we had completed an expedition that is not for the faint of heart.
The Sprinter van's really grown on me. It's become part of our little family, you know? It's our shelter from the freezing cold temperatures outside. It's our transportation to be able to experience these just beautiful areas. It's given us enough room to breathe and not get claustrophobic on a long trip like this. It's like our next little family member.
All right, guys, so after a night at Coldfoot Camp, we are headed back south.
And before we cross that border of the Arctic Circle, we need to officially check Drive to the Arctic Circle off of our list.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you guys next time.
Woo!